What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fights on College Football Show. Another big-time preview episode is upon us, and tonight is all about the Big 12. We have the Big 12 fandom represented tonight with Jake as the Iowa State fan. You can check all his Iowa State thoughts out separately on his Iowa State fan perspective. And JP and I have been grinding on the Iowa and Nebraska side starting now with previewing teams that are on each other's schedule. So there's a bunch of content out on our YouTube right now. It's your first time joining the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This is the college football place to be. Joined alongside my week-to-week co-host, Jake and JP. Jake, how are we doing tonight? Ready to talk a little Big 12 football?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been engulfed with it for feels like the last month, but this was a good time to catch up on, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the conference, but I needed to know three more teams. There were three teams out there that I was like, I really don't know what I'm going to get with these teams. I'm not really sure if I still know, but at least I have an idea of what the roster looks like. So I'm excited to talk about all of it. And I would say we'll just take our predictions with a grain of salt this year. With this,
you have to. I mean, you look at the conference up and down this year in preseason rankings, a majority of media platforms, and it some of it's close to opposite of what it was last year. I mean, Arizona State, bottom of the pile last year, now at the top of the most of the piles. I mean, it's just that conference is what it seems to be. JP, ready to preview Big 12 football? What'd you take away from your first glance at it?
I hate my conference title choices. I don't think I would have found one that I really enjoyed or liked, but I can tell you that it's one that you can make any prediction and nobody's really going to bat an eye at, because if you look at this conference in any way, you're going to say that, 1 through, I would say, I mean, we'll get into that. It's one of our questions, but there's a large chunk of this conference that you could make an argument for to get into Dallas and even winning it, and a little bit of it that you probably can't. So it's up in the air. If somebody's got something good, they're probably got a major flaw somewhere else on the roster. Nobody is, a complete team right now.
Yeah, absolutely not. And we'll get into it. We'll kind of go through team by team-ish. We'll talk more on some teams rather than others. If you weren't a part of our last preview episode, which was the ACC, give it a listen, give it a look over on our YouTube under the Lives tab. Hit the subscribe button while you're there. We did go through a little bit of a different style preview where we kind of had these topics. The feedback we heard on it was great, so we're going to do it again. What those topics are is we will start with the top headlines going into the 2025 seasons within the Big 12. Then we'll go to the conference title favorites, break down those teams, base a couple of questions off of it, talk coaches with the most pressure on their back headed into that season, talk most intriguing team, our wild card team. We'll give you 3 or 4 names to know within the conference, and then the most impactful transfer. And then we'll talk best games within the conference schedule. Those can be non-con games. Those can be conference games. And then we'll give our season predictions at the very end. That'll be offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, the conference title game, all that good stuff. So make sure you stick around, and we appreciate you being here more than you know. Before we get into tonight's show, let's remind you that our great partner over at No Rivals is still with us, still dropping awesome hats. We got 2 on in the Big 12 preview tonight. Got the Texas Tech one on. Jake's rocking the Iowa State helmet hat. The teams featured on No Rivals, if you are listening as a Big 12 fan, are Iowa State, Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, Houston, TCU, West Virginia, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, and Baylor. So a lot of teams represented there. However, if you didn't hear yours, head to their website, shopnorivals.com, go to the teams tab at the top, all the way down at the bottom, hit the request a team button, punch your team in, and they'll start working on getting them uploaded to the site. Shop No Rivals and use the code PTFS on all of your new awesome hats for this season. Shout out No Rivals, shopnorivals.com today. All right, boys, let's go into it. Don't want to spend too much time talking about stuff that doesn't matter. I guess we can lead off with a little bit of good news out of the Big 12. Deion's press conference, there were rumors everywhere of retiring, whatever the narrative is going to be from Twitter media and just people wanting a big time story. Comes out that he ended up beating bladder cancer. So good news out of Colorado. Good thoughts for Deion and co. And it's always awesome to have a big name and big media presence like that as part of the sport. So good news for the sport there. Now let's go into the headlines. We made these up. These could be questions about the conference, questions about specific teams. Jake, I'll let you lead it off and kind of start our Big 12 preview down the line.
Yeah, I think the main question with this conference this year is it's a legitimate argument, and I think a conversation people are seriously having. It's, can the Big 12 actually get 2 teams into the college football playoff? That's the biggest question. When you look at this roster of teams up and down, I personally, bias aside, I think the talent is there to get 2 teams in. Now, it might have to be a specific 2. I just don't know if you can have another team like Arizona State last year, from 13, 14, 15, 16 preseason odds, jump all the way to first and win the conference and expect to get 2 bids in. I just don't think that happens. I mean, the Arizona State was behind such an 8 ball last year early in the season. I mean, guys, one of my worst bets of the season last year was taking Wyoming like +7 first game of the year at Arizona State, because I actually thought Arizona State was going to be that bad. You look at the top of the league, and we'll talk about it a little bit as we move forward, but it's the biggest question for me. And we'll get into games of the year, but the non-conference for the Big 12 this year, it's so important. I could go all day on the list of matchups that the Big 12 has got to win to up their brand this year.
There's a lot of non-con games that are going to be important within this conference. I guess to answer the question you asked is there a realistic chance of 2 teams getting in? I feel like there is, because it feels so, like the top heavy, any of them can win that conference. But then it really depends on, in my mind, if it plays out more like the Sun Belt, where they beat up on each other because it's such a level playing field this year, to where you're looking at an 8-4 and 9-3 game in the conference title. And then you kind of make the playoff picture go, they went 8-4, but they still could be good against each other. That's the only thing I could kind of see them running into. But it wouldn't surprise me if they got 2 in, but it could also go the other way and they beat up on each other and shoot themselves in the foot. JP, what do you think on Jake's question?
I think the thing is, what if the Big 12 and the ACC just flip roles here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just Clemson and the ACC. We just covered them last week in that conference, and there's some ups and downs, and there's other teams with a real shot at it. But what if it's just Clemson, and then the Big 12 has an 11-1 champion, and then somebody sitting 10-2 prior to that title or something along those lines, right? Like, I feel like that's the path right there. Or, there's always the possibility that the Big 10 struggles to get 3 really good ones. Someone slips. SEC struggles to get 4. That, it's a possibility. It's college football. Things happen all the time. But I think that's the path right there. It's 2 teams in the Big 12 and only 1 out of the ACC.
What
Jay
about
Bird comes? Hold on, Jay Bird comes in. We got to give a special shout out to our guy. We haven't seen him in the chat for some time. So shout out Jay Bird. Welcome back to the show. 2 teams in the playoff. He doesn't think it's going to happen. Go ahead, Jake.
I just posed the question, and we can talk about this if it actually happens. But what about a team like Baylor, who goes undefeated in their non-con, beats Auburn, beats SMU, and then drops 2 regular season or maybe 3 regular season Big 12 games, gets into the title, and then they lose? Does that get him in? And what if it was a Big 10 team? I'm just being honest.
It probably would. I would say if it's 10-2, even that second loss cannot be bottom of the league.
I would almost say we have a little bit of a swayed view on the Big 12, because we hear about it more than what the national media would spew to most college football fans, because we have the fandom in here and we're in Midwest states, we're in the thick of the old Big 12. So I think we hear about it more and value it a little bit more than definitely the College Football Playoff Committee does. So great question there. Let's go over to JP for your headline from the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, mine is going to be how to handle the highs and lows. I wrote this down because my big note was, let's see how programs, coaches, fans start to handle the season-to-season change and variation in records, wins, the conference, and how that's handled as far as your head coaches go, attacking the portal, money, things like that. Like with the Big 12 and how we just consistently harp on, it's very wide open. There's a lot of teams that could win it. Each team is kind of different every year. What if your team is 10-2, 9-3, now they're 4-8, and then they're 6-6, and now they're 11-1, but the next year they're 6-6. That's a possibility for a lot of these schools, that they're just consistently doing this and they can't find a groove, right? What happens to coaches, I just don't really know how coaches and programs are going to handle that kind of thing, or even an AD or donors, things like that. I think that's a big headline for me, and it's a longer term headline than it is necessarily 2025 one.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I'll let the Big 12 guy answer first. Jake, what do you think about the year-over-year changes in the Big 12 compared to others?
I think one of my concerns for Iowa State this year is not the team itself. It's this team could be better and go 7-5, 6-6, and I'm a little nervous of what the fan base reaction will be. I don't think and Iowa State's not alone. I think there's a lot of Big 12 fan bases that will have irrational reactions to seasons like that. Same thing with Arizona State. Maybe they only win 7 games and they're calling for people's heads and things like that, and calling for people to get fired. And it's just like, yes, your team goes into the preseason every year with a shot to win. But JP, we say it all the time. Somebody's got to lose games. And sometimes
has to lose games.
The ball does not bounce your way in this conference. And we find that more and more every year.
Yeah, I can see that. I think as a fan, it would be tough. I think it's just a product of the new wave of college football, and we say that all the time. But what are we talking about when we talk, Oklahoma State and the expectation in the preseason last year versus this year, and Arizona State in the exact opposite case? Like, do you think, JP, it'll be a year-over-year thing, kind of similar to that, where it's that drastic, where it's top to bottom and bottom to top?
No, I think it's like I was kind of saying, like 11-1 to 6-6, and then maybe a 6-6 to an 8-4,
so
8-4 to like a 5,
like a
7
Michigan, like a Michigan to a 8-5, like a Michigan national title run.
It's a possibility that you could see somebody go from worst to first, or first to worst. Like, that's a possibility. But I think it's going to be more in that 3-game swing, because it is bounce a ball. So then 9-3 becomes 6-6 easily. 6-6 can become 3-9, 7-5. Down the line. Like, that's all possibilities within this.
You will never find a more wide range of optimistic fans heading into September than the Big 12. Like, Thank you for the Houston comment. Go Cougs. Like, Houston won 4 games last year, and they probably feel like they could be a dark horse. And I maybe wouldn't argue with them. Like, you're not getting that out of Purdue or Rutgers. Like, there's now Rutgers fan out there being like, we could maybe be the dark horse in the Big 10 this year. Just bounce our way with the schedule.
Yeah. The Wake Forest guys are over there like,
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you got a full chance, and maybe the viewers, it's a good plug here to check out our Michigan State preview I did with a former Michigan State quarterback, and he was giving his season predictions on Michigan State, and he was like, I think 8's the number, but 10 is what we're really pushing for. And I'm sitting there going, Wait. They're like, isn't the over under 5.5? Like, wait, who is seeing this? So maybe
he's
there
a
is
former
some
player. They don't worry about over.
Maybe it's a skewed view a little bit, but that they're definitely out there, and they definitely apply to this conference. I'll kind of base JP's question into my question, and I wanted to ask about the conference as a whole. Is it the most balanced conference in college football? Because when I look from top to bottom, brand wise, right? Like, I didn't see a school in there like the Oklahoma and the Texas was and the outliers. Like, you can see every program in this conference winning it this year, because there's not an Alabama in there. There's not an Ohio State. There's not a Clemson. Like, is this the most complete top to bottom brand wise that you're like, yeah, and it's anybody's game, and that's more of a piece of it than we think, JP?
It probably is. I would start to lean a little SEC, just because I think that that middle of the pack is there, but when that drops, I feel like that drops a lot heavier in that conference.
Yeah, and that's fair to say. I think I'm just trying to think like top versus bottom. Let's say Texas versus Mississippi State, and now I'm looking at Arizona State and Oklahoma State, or Arizona and somebody just terrible. So Jake, what do you think? You're the Big 12 guy, so this is my important answer.
I think that we're going to see a lot more top-heavy teams this year, or we're going to see a lot more teams feeding on bottom teams. And I don't know if I could pinpoint who exactly, but I think the bottom 3 in this conference by the end of the year are going to be some pretty poor teams. Like, I don't want to throw any teams under the bus right now, because I'm not even exactly sure, your 13 through 16 teams are going to be those like bottom 3 teams come November. But there's a couple of rosters I'm like, man, if things don't like gel quickly and it falls off the wagon really fast, a couple of these teams could be really, really bad. So I don't know if it's as balanced as last year, to basically answer your question.
Okay.
Can I ask a question as far as brands go?
Yes.
Do you think, now last year was, I would say, a good one for the Big 12 brand wise, Iowa State, Arizona State. Do you think there's a combo in here that would really just not interest anybody around the country outside of like people who really enjoy college football, all conferences, Big 12
like
fans, and then
championship games, you mean?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, would somebody like look at like that on, like, not to like pick on Houston, but like, that's a newer
Jason,
brand.
100%. Houston was the first team that came to mind.
If somebody threw you Houston, Cincinnati, or Houston, BYU, do you think they'd be that happy about it? Like, Not
I
that
don't
not
think
that numbers and viewership matters in that sense, because nobody cares. We want to watch good college football. But like, I feel like that would almost hurt the conference in those situations.
It's a great question.
I would say too, like I think Iowa State's fan bases are really loyal as far as numbers go.
Mhm.
But if you throw Iowa State as like a broad college football team to the national perspective, like you throw, let's just stay on Houston. You throw Iowa State Houston in a title game. I don't think people are that tuned in. I think people are starting to love the Matt Campbell thing a little more. Rocco Beck's name is getting out there a little more nationally that I think people are starting to buy into. Brock Purdy certainly helps, but I wouldn't even consider Iowa State to be a brand in this conference yet.
Yeah, it's a great question. Those are headlines. Let's not spend too much time on that because we got to talk favorites. Let's get a little bit further into the conference. Let's pull up and show you guys the favorites on the screen. We'll give you the odds. Let's start off with Kansas State, who is picked at the top of majority. It's kind of like split lines between different books. The book we were looking at, Kansas State plus 500 to win the Big 12, then followed by Utah at plus 600, Arizona State at the same number. Baylor follows them at plus 650. Then the Guns Up Red Raiders at plus 650 as well, and TCU to round it out at plus 800. So those are your 6 main teams that are listed at the conference favorite at the top. First question is there really a value to any team in this conference that are maybe not on the screen or plus 1,000 odds, but plus 900 and above that? Is there any value to you guys in taking those picks? And if there is, I mean, this is the conference to do it. And who would it be for you? Let's hear from you first, Jake.
I think if like an Iowa State fan would be pissed that, how is TCU above us right now? I think when you're taking into account
a cutout. Is it just me? Just in case it's not me, we'll be right back. Not sure what happened. I think we lost the entire team. I was just looking
I was like, what?
Malfunction within the Big 12. Everybody was off. It was me for a second. I was like, hey, just in case it's not me, we'll be right back.
I got booted off.
Yeah. The studio, and these guys are back. So now we're all back together.
Let's
act like that never happened. We'll cut that in the
replay. I don't know.
We all left. I mean, you guys were gone. It was just me for a half second. I was kind of looking at the camera like a complete idiot. So I'm glad you guys are back. But keep going with what you're going, Jake. You're just talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying not to lose
TCU versus Iowa State.
Yeah. I'm trying not to lose my train of thought. I think that the odds with Iowa State there is just based on schedule, and I think that's where a lot of the odds come from. It's just like Utah right now is sitting at what? Some days they're the number one team, number one favorite in this conference. I think a lot of it is just based on schedule and not necessarily like. Because you throw something in a hat and it's just so random with these Big 12 teams. So we'll have to wait and see. It's interesting to see K-State, Utah, Arizona State, Baylor, and Tech like all in that 500 to 650 range. It's kind of interesting to see where Vegas looks at those 5 teams compared to really the rest of the conference. Like I just talked about, I think Vegas does feel like these are some heavy hitters this year.
JP, what about you on the back end of the odds segment, plus 1,000? Do you see the value there?
Yeah, there's some there for sure. I wrote down 2. I wrote down Kansas and I wrote down BYU. I'm sure we'll get to both of them here later.
Leave off the clones, huh?
Well, they're not plus 2,000 or more, are they?
No, but just 1,000 was the question.
No, it says 2,000.
I think they might be the only team in the plus like 1,000 range. No, I guess BYU is. It can't. So Kansas right now is 1,500. Iowa State's 1,300, and then it's 2,600 is the next best odds with BYU.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sorry, clones. Not that I don't think you can win it, but
He doesn't want to anyway. You wouldn't have given it anyway. Come on.
No, but they're probably. I mean, they're in that conversation. But I went a little farther back, like 1,800 for Kansas, 2,000 for BYU. I think both of those are numbers that you would take. In a situation like Kansas, where things didn't go their way last year, they started to get into a groove late in the year. Reload a little bit on the offensive line is the hope. The receiver room gets a little better, and some spots are not even better, just stays good. Defense improves, and then BYU side of things, like if we can just get a quarterback to move the ship, it feels good. But that's a lot of defensive production they lost from a season ago. So I still think that those are two teams, and I say that because also like Kansas is going to be very hyped to play back at home, and BYU is not an easy place to go play. So if you can start stealing home games from guys and better teams, that puts you in a good spot.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I asked myself, I'm like, is there really a team outside of that plus 1,000 range? I looked at it that I see the value in. The answer in the preseason, where I know the talent of the top versus the bottom, or the middle bottom, if you want to call it that. K-State versus Kansas. My God, K-State just looks so much better on paper with so many high expectations and the production and the guys they brought in. But then I was like, wait a second, let's take a perspective of what conversation did we have last year? What was my preseason thought on Arizona State versus Oklahoma State?
They were in our
right
5
now,
minutes or 5 teams in 5 minutes. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, we're right now, to put it in perspective, right now, we would be talking about UCF, Oklahoma State, or West Virginia winning the conference title by 20 points. Because that's what Arizona State did last year from the preseason spot that they were in. So it's really hard to be like, no, there's not any value outside of that. In this conference, there's value in 1 through 16 or 1 through 15. So that's just where it is.
If you're a gambling guy, like you're just looking for value, I don't see. First of all, I wouldn't put a bunch of money on somebody winning the Big 12 because I feel like you're just going to lose money. But if you were,
right,
I feel like you're wasting your time with K-State, Utah, Arizona State, Baylor, and Texas Tech with those odds at 500, 600. Like throw something at least 10 to 1, with your Iowa States, or I don't know, first year head coach Rich Rod back, West Virginia, Cincinnati. Like go pitch something over there. Don't waste your time, at least in this conference, I think.
All right, second question based off these 6 conference favorites listed. Let's talk how many teams, and maybe there's more than what we see on the screen, do you legitimately think could win the Big 12 this year? Let us know your thoughts in the comments if you're listening. How many teams, give us a number, could win the Big 12 in 2025, Jake?
I'll give you an exact number, and I'm looking at it right here. I have 8 teams that I think I could win it. Now, I could do you want me to list them off? Which ones I think?
Okay. I want to give our 2 numbers first, and then we can list
I think
them.
8
I just want
teams
to
could
see.
win this conference.
Okay.
JP, your number.
I have 10.
I have 9, so we're smack dab.
So we're right in the middle.
8, 9, 10.
Who is not on your list?
I think, I don't know who's on your list, so it's hard to do it that way. Let's let Jake give it first, and then you'll have the 2 extra. Jay Bird says 6.
I lean more with Jay Bird. Like I'd go lower, but I was just like, I'll be generous and give
Jake,
8.
you list yours first, and then we'll know who is left off based off
Sure.
that.
Just based on Athlon here, they're 1 through 16. I'll go K-State, Arizona State, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Baylor, Utah, Kansas, TCU. So if you have Athlon, I counted
Intriguing.
8 out of the top 9, and I missed somebody, or I left somebody out. So you can take a guess on who I left out.
I'll give you the teams I left out.
Okay.
Because there's less of them than I picked. So no Oklahoma State, in my opinion, no West Virginia, no Colorado, no UCF, no Arizona. And this one I went back and forth on, but I ended up putting them in this category. I think they're a year or 2 off. Houston. Those are the ones that cannot.
Okay. That's fair.
You said Colorado, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Colorado could win it.
Okay.
I probably have a dead relative rolling in a grave somewhere, but the 9 I had listed were Arizona State, TCU, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Iowa State, BYU, Kansas, Baylor, and Colorado as teams I could see winning this.
You're leaving out Utah. You would rather take Colorado than Utah.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it seems out there, especially for a guy with the helmets behind me that I am and the shirt that I'm wearing. But like, I mean, he's going to have the talent and the steps forward Colorado took last year defensively, especially towards the end of the season, minus the bowl game. Granted, they lost big time players, but if they can replace them, like we're going to highlight some guys later. I know one's on your list, Jake, that I mean, Robert Livingston, maybe they can scheme something up. And Colorado has the talent to do so, and they've got the fans are sold out again. We'll see. You never know. It's a Big 12. Don't look at me like I'm an idiot.
No, I'm just thought it was interesting.
All right.
Let's go back to this comment from Jason here. I thought this was an intriguing one, right? Top 6 of the Big 12 recruiting rankings all include 4 Texas teams. It's a battle between those 4 in the future. Now, it's a good point, and it's true, right? Like, if you look at what TCU's done, probably the best recruiting within the conference. Obviously, what Tech has done.
Yes, number 1 high school recruiting in the Big 12 for the 5th year straight, TCU.
This Houston and Baylor, I think, also makes sense in there. But I think, it's not all numbers and stars in a lot of ways, especially in this conference, because there's too many developmental programs throughout it, right? Oklahoma State and Iowa State. We don't know what Dillingham's going to do. That might become more of a recruiting powerhouse once he starts to get the donors that finally come in. They've started to a little bit more this year. Maybe it's down the road. Utah does not need stars, but they get a lot of these guys that are high-end 3 stars and have chance at them. So I think that, yes, that does put them in a much better position. But when a league like this, if you're not recruiting way above somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean as much as it might be as the SEC. Like, those stars matter between a Vanderbilt and an Alabama. The stars between a TCU, which is recruiting at the best clip right now in the Big 12, and a Kansas aren't as big of a deal to me.
I think you are seeing a shift, though, with Texas recruiting as far as the Big 12 schools. I mean, Houston got that top or that 5-star quarterback. Baylor picked up, I think I counted 4 stars in next year's recruiting class. TCU's obviously dominated the recruiting as far as Big 12 rankings go the last 5 years, which makes it really important, right? And then everybody knows about Texas Tech and what they're spending. This is a big year for TCU. I need to see it out of Sonny Dykes. They got to win 8 or 9 games, because at that point, what do these recruiting rankings even matter in high school anymore? If you get the 5th straight year of being the number 1 recruiting class in the Big 12 and you can't put another, 7-5 season together, that should be the bare minimum if that's what you're recruiting. But some of these teams, man, you get your Kansases and your Utahs, your BYUs, your Iowa States. Guess what they have? Really prominent head coaches who have established a culture, and that's tough to beat over recruiting rankings sometimes. Not going to say all the time, but it's tough to beat.
Yeah, those Texas teams are also playing with, obviously a little loaded deck, right? We're talking Iowa State trying to recruit guys from the state of Texas when there's 4 teams in the same conference within that state. So it does help them a little bit that the state of high school football. I'm sure there's a lot more of ability to stay at home involved in those kids' minds when it comes to going to play at TCU versus going to play at Utah. So it's probably going to stay that way for a while, but great comment there from Jason. Let's keep it moving. That is our questions on the conference favorite. Let's get more into the coaching, gentlemen. There's going to be conversations about coaching. Who has a lot of pressure on their back going into the 2025 season? This could be for various reasons, could be negative, could be positive. Who do you see it and why? Jake, you first.
Great Pistol Pete
location
there, Parks. Nice branding. I'm going to keep mine short because it's been the talk of the entire offseason when talking about this conference. But shout out to our guy, Jared, who has been in the conference or comments. I'm going to throw your guy, Joey McGuire. Need I really say more? You spend this much money in a conference where it feels as wide open as ever. You're winning 5-star offensive tackles in the high school recruiting ranks, not just in the portal. And there are some legit dudes on that roster. We'll probably touch on them later. But yeah, man, it goes without being said. He's easily the most coach under pressure within the Big 12. Did I say something funny, Parks?
No. Just
where
bad
did I
wording,
phrase?
pause.
Did I?
Yeah, well, you said there's some dudes in this conference. We'll touch on them later. It's just, sorry. Sometimes I've
heard worse.
You heard it some way. Get off my back, Jake. I didn't even say anything. You called my laughing out. All right, it's fair. What do you think about Joey McGuire, JP?
It's a good point. I would say exactly kind of what he's saying. It feels like there's just the most expectation you could put on a team in this conference is on him right now.
Yeah. He's gotten called out. The money aspect itself, and we've talked about this in the past, especially during the offseason, is you may have a season full of money and with deeper pockets, but to retain that money in your pockets, you got to provide, right? You got to roll out a season that these donors and these businesses partnering with maybe your collective are going to want to reinvest in the next year to then upkeep the talent level that you keep going. And obviously winning helps that, but also just, some sort of serviceable thing towards the money being donated can also retain that and, elongate your success. So a lot of pressure this year with the pockets that he's got. I love that pick. Let's go over to JP. JP, talk to us about your pick with a coach with a lot of pressure on his back.
I got Scott Satterfield here. He's 8-16 in 2 years at Cincinnati, right? Felt like they were close last year in a lot of ways, in a lot of close games, lose those games. But a non-bowl season for him, I think, starts to make more panic. I think if it's 5-7 or worse, there's some real worry out there in the world. And then there's a lot of assumptions for his team, right? Like we assume things will go this way for them this year that didn't go their way last year. Also, like we are assuming the receiver room improves, like the way they built it up with the portal. We assume the offensive line gets better. We assume the DBs are, reloaded and fixed and things. It's possible that some of those disappoint, if not all of them, right? And, they need to win a ton of coin flip games. And it's weird for me to look at Cincinnati and that schedule and be like, oh, yeah, well, there's a real shot that they win 8-9, right? But you get TCU, you get BYU, you get Utah, Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas, and Nebraska. That's non-con. It's a tough schedule for them to do it. And so I think the worry is that there was so much success right before he got there. Now he's part of the transition, and it's a couple, it would be 3 years at this point of not winning. It becomes a little worrisome, and they feel like they're investing a lot in programs in general, not just the football program. So winning has to happen sooner than later before, if it's not now that the pressure this season, it's next year for sure.
Yeah, I know. I think the pressure is now. I think you nailed it because take a look. You already mentioned the schedule, but at the team, the feeling in general of playing against Alabama in the college football playoff, you'll lose your coach. Here comes Scott Satterfield, and it just hasn't even gotten that half of that edge back yet that you had. And then you move into the big conference and you start playing those bigger teams that you said you could have beat. But just the coaches just feels like what's holding you back because when you didn't have that one coach, you were there. So the fan base, I think, has this overall feeling that's overlaying that pressure. And I think you nailed it. I think it's this year, JP. I think you're right. Jake.
Yeah, it's so funny, right? We've talked about that Farmageddon game over in Ireland and how it can set the tone for the rest of the year. I don't think it gets talked about enough. That Thursday night in Kansas City, Nebraska, Cincinnati, that can set the tone for either one of those programs for the rest of the season.
It's not really getting circled on week one calendars for whatever reason, but I feel like we touch on it every week just because internally we're so excited about it.
It's going to be a great one.
I think about it a lot.
And it's two teams who can't win close games right now. So one of these teams is going to have to win a 7-point game with the whole college football landscape watching them on a Thursday night alone in that window. So I'm fascinated for it, really fascinated by it.
I'll go over to my pick for coaches with the most pressure. I'm going to flip to the side of a team with high expectations this year, and that's Baylor. I think Dave Aranda, we talked about him last year being a coach that was coaching for his job in that situation. Look at the last 3 years. He comes in 2020, the COVID season happens. And then in 2021, Baylor beats Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title. They go on to win the Sugar Bowl. Everything's on the up and up. Then you post a 6-7 season, a 3-9 season. And last year, you finally turn it back the right direction. You rip off 8 wins. But I still think there's that overlooking gloom of hey, you haven't won a bowl game. You still didn't win your bowl game last year. You haven't won a bowl game since that 2021 Sugar Bowl. So I still think with the expectations this season, with the returning production, I think there's pressure on Aranda's back for Baylor to at least get to the mark that they were at last year, if not more. Would you agree, Jake?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. We touched on how they're doing in high school recruiting too. The trajectory in the offseason hype is steadily, it's inclining for this program. And I think there's a confidence because you do have a prolific quarterback. And now it's just the pressure's on Aranda because the defense sucked last year. And he was the one who started calling plays. Yeah, he was the one calling the plays. So yeah, of course it relies on his shoulders this year because I do think that offense is going to be really good again. It's can the head coach get his specific group right in the defense? So we'll find out.
JP, any thoughts quickly on that squad?
It's a quiet favorite for a lot of people, though, I'd say. Not really talking a lot about Baylor.
Yeah, no, they're not, man. I'm sure we're going to get into it. Actually, I can assure you we will talk about Baylor further But let's leave coaches there. That are coaches with the most pressure. Let's move it on to most intriguing teams within the conference this year. Obviously, we showed you our conference favorite. But let's talk teams that maybe aren't the favorite, but intrigue you for a different reason. Maybe you're in the middle of the pack or maybe all the way down at the bottom. Jake, you lead us off. Tell us who's your most intriguing team within the Big 12 this year.
It's got to be the team. Well, I guess one of the teams that's been making the most headlines this offseason with one of their star players, and it's got to be BYU. The Retzlaff thing is really interesting. Like, fans argue that his production is pretty replaceable, and this McKay Hillstead is just next man in line. He'll figure it out. I don't necessarily disagree. I wasn't the biggest Retzlaff fan, but Retzlaff had a lot of more, snaps under his belt and a lot more experience. So we'll see where it goes.
Classic. Classic. If he's on our team, you don't hype him up enough. He's not on our team anymore. He's replaceable. Everybody does it. Everybody's guilty of it.
They talk about Retzlaff, but the D line's got to replace a ton. Like Tyler Beatty and that entire group. Like that was a really good defensive line, really good offensive line last year that they have to replace. They brought in some dudes in the portal. I think they got the best linebacking core within the conference, and it's just a fan base that feels disrespected after winning 11 games last year. Like, they're an afterthought to win the conference. I just said it. I don't think they can win the conference. So fans kind of have a right to feel that way over in Provo.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been that way. I felt the same way after the Retzlaff news comes out. He lands in the new spot. Like, you didn't hear any rumblings like, man, that's a massive hit for BYU, especially from their fan base itself. They're like, whatever. Like, he wasn't going to play for the first few games. So
they said the same thing about Taggart.
Yeah, no, they did. And we just used him as the most impactful transfer for the ACC. So I think they're just trying to find the bright side, which is something I could definitely add to my repertoire as a fan. So shout out BYU fans. JP, your team and intriguing team within the Big 12.
Yeah, I went a couple of different directions and I ended up landing on one. I'm going to go Utah here. Maybe it's a delayed launch. Last year we thought it was going to be walk into this conference, and maybe if you have a healthy Rising, you walk through it. Didn't happen, obviously. Not a very good Utah team at the end of the day. Offensively, still a good defensive team. Now we just assume everything is fixed because Whittingham went out and got Jason Beck from New Mexico. They're bringing in Devin Dampier. And then, we're just assuming that the run game is going to be good enough and that Dampier is going to be able to sling it, and throw the ball a little bit better. And I'm not just so sure that's the case right now. On the flip side, they're going to be really good defensively again, as they have been in past. They have really high returning production rates, but this is returning talent in that way too. Not just starters who filled holes. It is starters who can make plays and make a name for themselves. Then you put them in a really tough schedule. And it's kind of one of those situations where if it is delayed and this is the launch year, does it catch anybody by surprise? Do people expect this to happen? I just think there's a lot of assumptions that Utah's fixed and ready to go again, and I'm not so sure that's the case.
No, I agree. I mean, I left him off my conference title, teams that have the ability to win it for the exact reasons you just said. So it's almost a prove it year to be like, hey, can you get there without Cam Rising? Because we haven't seen it yet. And what do you think, Jake?
Yeah, they talk about the offensive line. It's probably the most experienced offensive line coming back. They talk about the high ceiling of Devin Dampier, Wayshawn Parker, running back, going to be a stud, I think, from Washington State. But the receiving room, fellas, lost 10 of its top 11. Their number one target left in the spring. Like, they don't have anybody to throw to, at least I don't think. And their tight ends are gone. And that's a pivotal point in the offense for Utah. So it's going to be fascinating. Like, yeah, Devin Dampier can do a lot, and he can do a lot with his legs, but he also threw 12 picks last year. He's got to adjust to Big 12 defense, and he's got to find somebody to throw to. I'm not sure if he even has a couple of options right now.
No, absolutely not. So that's a good pick there, JP. Utah, definitely a storyline to follow within the Big 12. Over to my pick. I picked TCU. I think TCU is a team that we already mentioned early in the episode to watch. I think about 70% of college football fans would probably forget that this team won 9 games last year. I feel like the program as a whole, you look back 2 years ago, it feels like forever ago, or 3 years ago now, and they're in the national title game. They get drubbed. And then their next national memory of them is Colorado. They open up at TCU, and Colorado wins that game. So then everybody just kind of loses to where that program and what they're capable of is. And they have the talent this year to put something together. They made the conference title slide for a reason. They caught momentum at the end of the year. They won 9 football games. They got to improve on defense a little bit this year. They gave up some wildly crooked numbers last year to some good offenses, but The pass defense was improved. The rush game was not very good defensively, but the pass defense, they re-upped it. They brought in a couple transfers, Austin Jordan, Kylan Jackson over from LSU. They bring in Elijah Jackson, who was on that Washington national championship team from a couple of years ago as the runner-up. And then you retain a couple of good guys. He used to be an all Pac-12 player before he got to TCU, and that's Caleb Orr. So they got the defensive pieces. It feels like everything's aligning. And then it comes down to Hoover. You gave him a couple of weapons. He's got a couple of blue chip guys on the outside. And then if the passing attack can get going like it did, whether the run games works or not, they got enough offensive production. They won 9 football games. So I think the high school recruiting, all these things are stacking up to where these teams are the future, just like the comment we got in earlier. But TCU intrigues the hell out of me because it wouldn't shock me if they were playing in Jerry's World at the end of the year. Any crazy thoughts from you guys on TCU, Jake?
I think TCU could be good this year, but
here's the but. I heard that but coming. I felt it.
Let's take the 9 wins with a grain of salt. Let me tell you their conference wins last year. Kansas.
But go through the scores too. The scores are a big part of why I'm like,
Kansas 38-27. Texas Tech, good win, 35-34. Utah, at Utah, 13-7. Oklahoma State, 38-13. Arizona, 49-28. Cincinnati, 20-13. I mean, they played the bottom of the conference. Not to mention, fellas, they could have easily been in Dallas had they not lost to UCF and Houston at home last year. I mean, that doesn't get talked about enough. Like they had the easiest schedule in the world.
Come on, he's young, another year of experience. It's an intriguing team. They've got the ability to do so. That's what I'm saying. But what was the one game? I forget who it was. It was like a 66-48 game. Something nuts.
Well, SMU hung 66 on them.
That's right. 66. It was SMU. 42 points against SMU. Take that. There's a little positive in there. Just got to stop the run.
Because they kept getting the ball back 100 times.
Yeah, they couldn't stop a running nose that game. JP, thoughts on TCU briefly?
TCU show up somewhere down the line here.
Yeah, and they're probably going to be listed in our big game segment for sure. That is our most intriguing teams. Definitely 3 teams to note there. Let's go to long shots. Let's go teams. I think we said 2,400 plus 2,400 odds or further down the line away from winning the conference. This is your long shot team. So these aren't going to make sense, and you got to explain and give a reason why to maybe it makes more sense than people are giving it credit for. JP, you go first.
Where you at, Jason? I got Houston here. Houston Cougars, right? What if Wegman is the answer?
Shot.
What if that's the idea here, right?
That's the segment. I get it. No, you're right.
What if Fritz is just it's year 2 boost that we haven't seen in a little while? It's just immediate impact. Favorable schedule, honestly. If you haven't looked at that, it's a pretty favorable schedule for Houston. If the offense is I think the offense is going to be fine. I think they're going to find a really good running game. They'll find their way. They have 4 different backs that they'll use in tandem throughout the whole thing. The receiver room will be just fine. Defense is a little bit of the worry, just a mass departure from the guys they had last year, and they lose the defensive coordinator. So that's a tough thing to, kind of get your way. But when the schedule is in your favor and you're in a second year, and if the quarterback is the solution, there's a recipe there. And I don't know, what the expectation is for Houston, but I do think that there's some things there that can really help things out. Like that's where I go back is just the defensive coordinator switch. A lot of guys hit the portal or graduated, but there's still pieces there. It's just how do they fit together in this puzzle for the 25 season?
Yeah, that's definitely a long shot. But if the stars align, that's when long shot's going to happen. So I think Houston is a team that they're going to be pretty good defensively again. So we'll see if they can maybe turn something around. They had some bad losses last year that kept them away from being bowl eligible. Jake.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on Houston. Let's just see what Connor Wigman does. But I love a couple of transfers they picked up. Like you guys remember Tanner, I think it's Tanner Kazoil. He's from Ball State. He went to Wisconsin. He was like the PFF highest graded transfer out of any tight end. And then they stole him in the spring. I thought that was fascinating. And then how about Dean Connors from Rice across the street? Like Dean Connors is a good back at Rice. So we'll see. The Wigman thing's interesting. They also have Zion Chris back, who loves to run the football. So like interesting to see if Fritz and the new offensive coordinator can like figure out some new packages and stuff with that.
All right, long shot there. That adds up. Let's go over to Jake. Jake, give us your long shot to win the Big 12.
Yeah, I gotta go. Shout out to our guys at Viva La Cats. It's got to be Cincinnati for me.
It's going to be tough to bounce back after 0-1, man. It will be, but it's a long shot.
It could be, but if they get that win, oh boy, you're feeling pretty confident heading into the conference play. I think you just got to find replacements on the offensive side of the ball. They lost a ton on the offensive line. Love what they did in the portal though, and pick up Joe Cotton from South Dakota. Almost said USD, so people would have gotten that over their head. Picked up Joe Cotton from South Dakota. Great tackle addition. I think they got a couple of, like, Pryor's going to be a good running back for them. Sorsby just needs to take another step. I think Joe Royer is the best tight end in the conference. Like, there are pieces there, but Sorsby's got to throw the ball, and he's got to figure out how to throw a deep ball. But if they figure that out, I think I trust Tyson Veit, former Iowa State linebackers coach. I think that the defense will get it done. Would love to see that 3-3-5 against old young Dylan Raiola.
Hey, you've seen a 3-3-5 before. We don't play in the mid-12. Let me talk about Cincinnati.
Just conference bashing when it comes to
it. He's seen it before. I think past the Nebraska game, but I've gotten to look more into Cincinnati as we get closer because we got to do a preview video for him, and now we're previewing them in the conference. They do have the weapons, like the Wisconsin back and Tawi Walker. Like, he was a guy that was good last year. I mean, he was serviceable for that offense where they lost their quarterback and had to bring in a guy who didn't throw the ball very well consistently. And he got a lot put on his shoulder, split time, but still has the talent to do so. So Cincinnati definitely has the guys, especially on the D line, which we'll name him later again, but they have some pieces here that if the stars align, both of you are correct. These are long shot teams for a reason, but you're not wrong. So what do you think on Cincinnati, JP, for a long shot pick?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about them a little bit ago. I think the pieces are there as far as the expectation for the fan base and everything. I think the Sorsby thing doesn't get talked about enough. There's a lot of good quarterbacks within the conference. He's definitely in the top end of that. Can the defense be not one of the Big 12's best, but can they be enough, right? And then can it just become a situational switch for them? Just one score games, flip them. Fan base will get into it. That stadium is fun when it's rocking. It's kind of a cool little venue to watch games on. I wish I could go there and check it out sometime. Maybe that's down the road on a road trip. But I think that there is more to that fan base and that program than meets the eye in some ways.
100%. All right, let's leave Cincinnati there. Before we do that, you know what defense Nebraska runs, Jake? Are you familiar with the defense Nebraska ones? He's seen a 3-3-5 before, jackass. Anyway, all right.
What about the new coordinator? They gotta keep it that way, or
yeah, he was their defensive backs coach last year. They're staying in the same defensive scheme. Goddamn. All right, let's go on. Let's move to my team, my long shot team, and this is a long shot in a lot of people's mind. And we actually got a question in from GA a little earlier about this team. Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State are way down there in odds. They're way down there in returning production and the just general talent level overthought by the country. But they made a couple of coordinator hires that I'm intrigued by. Guys with, here we go. That is
throwing him off, rattling him already.
Hat's coming off, Gus. I was in here to support you and guns up. It's coming off. Chop no rivals. Going back to Oklahoma State quickly. The coordinators they brought in, I like Doug Meacham at OC, but Todd Grantham at defensive coordinator, they struggled defensively at times last year. And if they can just get a few steps better, and you think of the program overall, and you think of Mike Gundy, who's played second fiddle his whole career, can he develop guys that maybe aren't as talented on paper enough to win some games in the Big 12? Absolutely, in my mind. I mean, it's a guy who's won 10 games before multiple times within his career. And he's usually been in the shadow of Oklahoma majority of the time in the conference. So it's not crazy for me to say, hey, Haas Henge works out. He works out somehow. Or Zane Flores, the Nebraska Gatorade Player of the Year, comes in and he finally gets healthy and he can sling the ball around to maybe not guys that will blow you away, but there's a couple other names that we're going to tell you later to know that you probably don't know off the top of your head. So Oklahoma State, in my mind, has a very small chance in the back of my mind with the coordinator hires and the experience they brought in, which those coordinators were at very good offenses and defenses before this job, can make things work out. I know it's a long shot, gentlemen, but thoughts on Oklahoma State?
For me, it's too much to spin. Like, usually I feel like if we look at some of those Gundy teams that have taken a step the next year and or surprised people, there's enough pieces there that you feel comfortable with them being solid. I don't feel super comfortable with them being super solid this year. I think it's a growth year. I do think Gundy's back in 26 as the second part of GA's question. I don't think that they're at that point yet, unless it's a total implosion as it was a season ago. I think he's back next year. But they got some other things going on. They got to get the recruiting thing underway. They have to figure out the NIL world. There's a lot in the background.
Jake.
They went the opposite direction. Like they're trying. Like they picked up 35 guys in the portal, a couple of defensive tackles that were 4 stars in high school recruiting. Like there's a little bit of positive momentum there, but I don't know how many talented guys you get out of that 35 bunch that they brought in through the portal. Like your best defensive player might be that linebacker from Akron. Like we'll see. They talked about their best receiver. I mean, might be Parks, like Jalen Lloyd. Okay, if he's the best receiver on that team, okay, I guess I'm glad you like him. I just wasn't super high on him, I suppose, but we'll see if anybody can throw to him. 0 returning starters on offense. Like that is really hard to replace with a coach that it was there last year. Usually you see new coaches in the new portal era come in, first year head coaches, no starters. But very rarely, you never see a coach who's been there for 21 years. He's getting 0 starters back. They're just like, yeah, you're not getting even close to the same team.
Did he want any?
Yeah, that's maybe.
You'd probably take Ollie Gordon back.
I was going to say,
but not the quarterback.
I'd take Ollie Gordon back.
Bowman's selling insurance. We're going to have Bowman on the show next week. I know he's free. Come on. We'll have
He's
him
got
on
to
the
be
show.
playing in the XFL. Well, that season's over.
It's possible. All right, let's keep it going down the line. Let's stay on teams that are kind of notable to watch. Let's go wild card teams. So this could be middle of the conference to that back end. Give me a wild card team. Kind of feels like could be a long shot because I'm going to give you the same answer. My wild card team would be Oklahoma State because they could win 0 conference games again, or they could rip off 7 if things work out.
It's true.
You never know. It's high ceiling, low floor. They fit that narrative. So that's my team, and I already explained it. JP, let's go to your wild card team.
It's TCU. This is wild card city. This offense is going to be high flying. They have a very, very good receiver room. Josh Hoover puts up numbers. They might have it this year, barely any running game, no ability to get any offensive line push anywhere. But what if it's fixed a little bit this year and it's even more high flying? On the flip side, what if the defense doesn't get flipped and it's pretty rough again? They might struggle to get back to a spot where they're at the top of this conference. But if it just gets improved a little bit, like let's say there's 18 or 16 teams in this conference. They're not, 10 through 16. Maybe they're 9. Maybe they're 8. Like they're just good enough. And then that's a good enough for me. That is a TCU team good enough to get to Dallas. On the flip side, defense isn't fixed. People kind of figure out the pass game a little bit. More mistakes happen. And there's still no run game. Now we're looking down the barrel of 1-2 conference wins total. That's wild card to me because this team is going to be an absolute blast to watch and could challenge for the best of the conference, or it could sit in the back of the conference and watch it pass it by another year.
I like that pick. And we already talked about TCU, Jake, so I'm going to go to you for your pick. Take me home. There's wordplay in there.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
When I think of wild card team, I think anything is on the table. And with West Virginia, I think anything and everything is on the table. No, I'll say I don't think that this team could even in the slightest get to like 9 or 10 wins, but they're over under win totals at 5.5. They could get to 8 and have a good first year under Rich Rod. Like if you're a West Virginia fan, you got to fantasize about what this run game could be and what this offense could look like with Jaheim White and Ty Edwards from UNI and Jalen Knighton from SMU. You ran the ball the most out of anybody in college football last year, as Rich Rod did at Jack State, compared to the only people who were ahead of him were the service academy. So you're going to still run the football. I think Nico, I don't know if he's guaranteed to be the starter, Nico Miracle, but he's a big guy who runs the football too. I think he'd fit well in with this like RPO kind of scheme that Rich Rod does. Mm-hmm. But on the same side, fellas, their offensive line is going to be abysmal. And so if you can't block for this run scheme, like it could be South fast or the tempo catches
them.
Yeah, it could help them. It catches people off guard. You're running up tempo. You win maybe you surprise and upset a couple of people in those first 6 games, and then there's no depth and your team wears down. And the bottom 6 games of the year are kind of a disaster. So I don't really know. Like I said, I think this team could get out to a fast start and maybe surprise some people, but then I think the back half of the schedule could be tough sledding with Colorado at Arizona State and Texas Tech to finish the year.
Yeah, I think the best news for West Virginia fans, unfortunately, that they'll get this season, they're kind of going to have the rough patch, and the best news will be that they return the glossy helmets from back in the day, and that's unfortunate news. But I just the feels like the floor is more likely to me in that situation, just with year one and what they had last year and the mistakes they made. And that makes it extremely tough. We talk about new coaches and new players. That's a lot of new players. I mean, that is a lot of new players. Plus, you lose Garrett Green, which was so beloved by that fan base. A little overrated, but very good player. JP, any thoughts on the Mountaineers?
I mean, I think it's a lot. It's lightning in a bottle. Like, there's a lot of hope sitting in this thing, and if it gets dropped and it breaks, it's going to be pretty tough to come back for if the new coach should hire in 3 or 4 years if it doesn't work out. Like, it just feels like it's going to be even more bottom.
Beat Pitt at home. I think that's a start. Pitt at home
solves a lot of problems.
Does solve a lot. Winning solves everything, some people say. But all right, that is our wild card teams. Let's keep it moving. Let's go into individual players to watch, players to know within this conference. Going to give 2 or 3 per person. Jake, let's go to you first. Give us a name, and we'll go one by one here.
Yeah, I'll kind of pick up where JP left off. Eric McAllister, wide receiver, TCU. Boise State transfer a couple of years ago. This dude's going to be a stud. I think he's got a shot at probably having the most receiving yards within the conference now that Jake Besch is gone and Savion Williams is gone. This is a guy who's going to get the ball thrown to a ton, and he's going to have a quarterback who's probably going to throw for 4,000 yards. So this will be the new up-and-coming TCU receiver that everybody knows about if they haven't found his name already.
I like that. JP, yours.
Dante Corleone, Cincinnati defensive line here. This is a 2022 All-American, All Big 12 a season ago, dealt with some injuries last year and a weird situation, but a big body, single-digit human being in the middle of a defense, being a run stopper.
Godfather.
I mean, he's just going to get circled. I can see it on like a live broadcast. Whoever's calling the game is just going to circle this guy consistently, being like, watch the disruption.
Look at number 2 right in the middle here. You see him right here? They're trying to go inside zone, and he's just blowing out the gap.
Colt McCoy, I want you to watch. That's what he says. I want you to watch. That was the worst compilation I've ever seen last year with him on the mic. But good pick there. Definitely a notable force in the defensive line for Cincinnati. On my side, let's go back to the offensive side and talk weapons. Josh Cameron over at Baylor. And he's on this list not just as a wide receiver and going to be a viable option for Sawyer Robertson, but as a punt returner too in the special teams game. He's an absolute weapon for Baylor. And last year, team leader in catches, yards, and scored 10 touchdowns. And that you don't hear that very often from the wide receiver position. Actually, nobody's done it at Baylor since Tyquan Thornton back in 2021. So he's got some good company. He averaged 20 yards per punt return, explosive player, and definitely going to be a guy that's going to be circled for Sawyer Robertson in a majority of his schemes. And there's a good guy on the other side pairing with him. So that's my first one, Josh Cameron over at Baylor. Jake, back to you.
The defense of Colorado this year is going to have to, I think, carry the load, or at least for the beginning, for this Colorado offense.
And before people like kind of
we should. We're not high on Salter. Yeah, and we're not high on Salter. That's like people are going to be like, "Well, why would you say that?" But we have they're this, and Cade Salter with the media days. So
and they were the worst rushing football team in America. So that also doesn't.
They lost both backs. Yes.
So, anyways, the defense has got to pick up where they left off, and you're losing a Heisman Trophy winner. You're losing Cameron Solomon Craig, I think that was his name.
Solomon Craig, yeah.
And people love him or hate him. You're losing Shiloh Sanders, a guy who was a veteran on your defense. So look for DJ McKinney at the cornerback spot. Say what you want about him. He was around for a while and he was a captain. So I mean, DJ McKinney is a junior cornerback.
Jake, don't fall off the take, man.
No,
we're not the only one.
I'm defending the Buffs fans who were passionate about their boy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, because they liked a part of the program. They liked what he brought to the table as a leader or whatnot. But he just
reminds me of Travis Hunter. No, he doesn't. I like him as a human. I like him as a human. That's how he reminds me of Travis Hunter. But just like as a player, I don't like him, or the team he plays for in that case. But he's not at all like Travis Hunter.
Thanks for clearing that up. This just in. Yeah, I'll get to my point. DJ McKinney, he's going to have to lead that secondary in Livingston's defense this year, and I think he could be first team all caliber if this defense reaches the ceiling they're capable of.
JP, over to you.
Yeah, stay in the defensive backfield here. Tal Johnson, Utah, 44 tackles, forced fumble, an INT, and a couple pass defense last year. This is one of the best in the conference from the safety position. He's a guy that runs free, makes a lot of plays downhill. The run game has the ability to drop back and play the pass. One of the best in the business right there. Not one that's going to be highlighted on a lot of tapes, but one you'll find in a lot of, postseason accolades.
We could have done round 2 all defensive backs because keep me on that train. I'm going to go VJ Payne over at K-State. Really, really good retention piece for them there. And a guy, if he takes a step forward, is going to be a first-team all-conference guy, at the very least, a second-team all-conference guy. Posted a hell of a season last year, 64 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss as a safety, 6 total pass breakups on his report, whatever you want to use that stat as. But then he was Big 12 honorable mention last year. So it's a huge retention piece, a massive piece for this Kansas State backfield with high expectations of the Big 12 favorite in some books. So big name there. Jake.
LJ Martin, running back, BYU. I think he is not on anybody's all-conference list. First team, second team, third team. And if BYU wants to have the season the fans have a high expectations for, you've got to get that quarterback gelled quickly. And it's going to start with a good, solid foundation and run game. Rely on the defense, play slow, be physical, and run the football. And LJ Martin, I think, needs to be a 1,000-yard rusher this year. I feel like he's battled injuries, and he just never has been fully healthy. So I look for a guy. He's very capable of being an all-conference guy at his best.
Great pull. And when he's healthy, he's damn good football player. So I like that pick. JP, over to you.
Yeah, last one here to be Chase Sowell, Iowa State. I think we have people who listen to the Iowa State stuff and know who they are. JP also thinking I'm just bashing Iowa State at any point I have. I wasn't bashing them. I think this is the piece that has to hit for this offense to be good. The difference between what they brought in him and Townsend versus, Higgins and Knoll is that those two are in the system for a while. These two have to plug in and find all of this chemistry with Beck. Like,
there's a fair argument to have that those two that you just named, Knoll, those guys were such massive pieces for that offense in big plays, especially in big spots of each big game that they won last year. I mean, look at the Iowa game, JP. What did that started turning around? 75-yard touchdown pass to Knoll. I mean, it's a big pieces they lost. So it's definitely worth noting.
It's just the difference that he's going to be expected to take on that Higgins role. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare him to the guy, but that's what's going to happen because Townsend's going to get the Knoll comparisons. And if the offense I think the offense will be good again, but he's the one that everything's going to get thrown on and he's going to be the one highlighted. So I figured if it hits, you're going to want to know the name. Even if he doesn't make the numbers and people are disappointed, he could still have a really good year. And I think that's nature of the beast in this situation.
Absolutely. All right. Good name pull there. My last one, I'm staying on the EMAW defense. Let's talk linebacker. Austin Romaine, unbelievable player, led the team last year, 96 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He was all Big 12 second team, another leadership role in the middle of this defense. Probably going to lead the team in tackles again with the way K-State operates. Hard-nosed, gritty guy. You're going to see him in some NFL draft boards this next year. Hell of a player. So Austin Romaine, definitely a name to note, especially on the defensive side of things for the Cats. Those are our players to watch. Let's go to impactful transfers. Transfers that are coming into each school. Tell us about who's going to make an impact their first year in that new uniform. Jake.
I'm going to change mine up from what you guys see on the notes, but we're going to stay on we're going to flip it to the other side of the field. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go Romello Height, Georgia Tech transfer to Texas Tech at defensive end. I had David Bailey originally written down, but I love Height because I think we know what we get out of him from just straight, like he was one of the best defensive ends in the ACC. Bailey comes over. I think his stats grade out and everything, but he was on a Stanford team that just didn't really do a whole lot where like Height comes in and he was like, no, he was really productive on a really good team that saw Georgia and other teams down in Miami. Like he was a game wrecker. So I think I trust Height a little more than Bailey at this point. And I think he's just going to be a stud on that entire stack defensive line at Tech.
Love that pick. JP, give us an impactful transfer.
Yeah, I think I had a similar theme last week when we did this. I did Devin Dampier, and that's simple reasons. If this doesn't work out and he is not the guy at Utah, I am worried about what Utah is going to be again this year. So that's what I put that there. It had, there's a ton of guys that are going to be bigger impacts, I think, than him. But as far as wins and losses go, this is one you can't really argue with.
We haven't seen we've gotten to see a non-good or serviceable quarterback Utah offense, and it ain't pretty. So definitely worth noting. If he doesn't work out, things can go south really quick for the Utes. My side of things, I went with the opposite side of that Baylor offense. We already talked about the stud. Let's talk about somebody they're bringing in that has the ability to be a stud, and it's Kobe Prentice. Comes in from Alabama. I feel like we can rename this segment and say transfers you maybe forgot about. But if you say the name, people are like, oh, yeah, the Alabama receiver. He's playing at Baylor this year. Another huge option for Sawyer Robertson on the outside. When he's healthy, he's really good. He did get banged up, but if he can take some of the attention away from Josh Cameron, that's also helpful for that offense. So I think it's going to be, maybe if it's not numbers-wise, there is an impact for Kobe Prentice being on the field for the Bears. So that is my most impactful transfer, and that comes for Baylor. All right, let's go down to best games within the conference. Let's keep it rolling. These are the 3 games. They can be non-con or conference games that you think everybody must watch. Give us that first game, Jake.
Friday night, week 1, Baylor-Auburn.
Absolutely.
Going to be just fantastic. You talk about, coaches that are under pressure, Parks. You had Dave Aranda under that list. I think Auburn is facing that sort of pressure too. And Hugh Freeze is probably one of the most pressured coaches right now in college football. Just 2 teams that have, especially Auburn, spent a ton of money. And it's like, all right, now flex your SEC muscles and go into Waco. And let's see if you're going to be legit within this conference.
Mm-hmm. JP, your pick for a game you must watch.
Yeah, I'll just be quick with this. We've already touched on it. I had Cincinnati, Nebraska early. It's just where those 2 programs are and what they expect for the year.
Oh, I'll be watching. Going to mine. Stop. Gus, I'll never forgive you for that one. First time I hear from you in a long time. You come in the comments and you got to drop stuff like that just to grind my gears. And he knows he does it. All right. Listen, for my first game that you got to watch, let's go TCU, North Carolina, September 1st. It's going to be fun. You got a lot of questions around North Carolina and that Bill Belichick-led program. And then we talked about the highs and lows possible for TCU. You're going to learn a little bit about both of those teams, and it matters a lot for the Big 12 picture with TCU in that game. So that is my pick for first must-watch game. Jake, back to you.
How big is that week 1 for the Big 12? Like, we didn't even mention Colorado, Georgia Tech. We just our first 3 games were all week 1.
What's
Jake? Somebody listed those games. We got 3 picks.
It's like this guy makes a podcast format, tells us to put our answers in there so no one takes anybody,
and then doesn't read the rest of the answers,
and then goes through one round and blows half our picks.
Well, who's putting 2 week 1 games in games to watch? That's
the guy that you watch. Didn't you just
say
that?
So many games you want to watch.
This guy literally just said how big week 1 is and is now complaining that there's too many week 1 games on the games to watch.
It was ironic that we all said week 1 games.
So
we're not. Nobody's gonna say another week 1 game, but apparently we got
cool.
it. So go ahead.
You could have known. It was in front of you. Go, Jake. Go.
No.
Go.
I said somebody's answer. Somebody go ahead. Whose answer was that?
It was JP.
It's mine.
JP. All right. JP, you take the floor. Take the floor with Georgia Tech.
Colorado, Georgia Tech. That's all I got. Sorry.
It's going to be an awesome game. We made a graphic for it. Man, what a battle it's going to be. You get to learn a lot about Georgia Tech and Colorado in that game, but you got to think Georgia Tech. Everybody I've asked, we put a poll out there on our YouTube under post. Everybody, the only response we got was from our boy GA, and he thinks the Buffs are going to lose, but that might be a Nebraska loaded opinion. Great game, great one.
Just giving away picks.
It's
different years, same shit.
Rub the head. Jake, you're up.
Texas Tech at Arizona State. This is your 1 and 2 for most people's projections within the conference. And I think this one's early. I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure this one's early October. So we're going to it's going to be, we're going to find out. Tech, you spent that money. They don't play much of a non-con. So head to Tempe and let's see what you're made of.
They got to go to, what do they call that? Lubbock South? Lubbock West? Yeah, Lubbock West. You got to go into Lubbock West, win a tough road game.
Geography.
Got to go back at my boy Gus. All right. JP, you already gave yours to my second pick. How about Arizona State at Iowa State in November? You get a rematch of the Big 12 title in Ames. Arizona State wants you to leave that 72-degree weather or something around there and come up to Ames and play a football game against a team you belittled
God's country
on national television. So that definitely much watch TV when you get a rematch of a blowout like that. And they didn't play each other that year. So definitely want to note there. Back to Jake. Don't say any other games, Jake. Just give your third.
Probably just the one you like, man.
Yep.
Sam Levitt. You ever seen a cornfield? Welcome to America, buddy. All right. No, let's stay with corn. But we're going across the pond. It's Iowa State, K-State. It's the lone game in week 0, 2 projected top 15, top 20 teams. I've said it a billion times and I just feel like a broken record, but this game just sets up for the entire season. I really feel like for both of these programs, win or lose. So really excited for it. Can't get here soon enough. 23 days.
All right, JP, you get to actually give us a pick this time. Give it.
Yeah, can't take this one, Jake. This is the last one. So the opposite of week 1 is week 14. How about Lubbock and the boys, the Red Raiders, having to travel to Morgantown late in the year? What if West Virginia is better than we expect and there's something on the line for the Red Raiders and all they have to do is go into hostile Morgantown late at night on a cold night? And weird things happen in Morgantown. That's all I'm saying. So just circle that one and just remember where they go last week of the year.
Yeah, we're going absolutely heavy Texas Tech on these must-watch games. So shout out Gus again. But Texas Tech at Kansas State, also November 1st. Same time frame as that Arizona State-Iowa State game. It's a great week for the Big 12. A lot of movement could happen at the top if things go the way people expect them to. So definitely one to note there. K-State going to be rocking. That crowd can get going. I've seen it in real life. And I expect it to be there if both teams get off to a good, thick start to their season. All right, that is the games to watch. Let's go back to the things that people really care about. Let's go to predictions. Offensive Player of the Year is what lead us off. Before we do that, Shop No Rivals, our great partner at No Rivals. Check out their new caps, new designs coming this summer. Just launched and added 4 new teams. None of them in the Big 12. However, still good news overall. It could be your team. Check their website today, shopnorivals.com. Find the hat you love. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all of your awesome new hats and gear up for game day. Okay, now let's go to the Offensive Player of the Year prediction. Who you got? Tell us why. You're probably going to have this team going far. Usually just the way it works. Jake, give us yours first. Are you going to do it?
What would I be? What are you assuming?
Something pertaining to the team that you're wearing on your head?
No. Of course not.
Wow.
No.
Of course not. I'm fairly certain you gave Rocco Beck last year.
No, I didn't. There's no shot I did. I remember having Kansas in my title game, and I whiffed. So maybe I hope I'm wrong about not picking Rocco Beck. Sam Levitt. I was wrong on him last year. I'm an apologist, and I'm ready for him to take the reins. Like, there are a lot of new transfer quarterbacks that could be like, you could put Devin Dampier in here and this could be fun, but it's like, no, I know what I'm getting out of Sam Levitt. And he was a young freshman last year. And I think his trajectory is only going up with his number 1 receiver back. Like, I think he could really take a step with his coach back and everything else back. I'm getting a couple of shaking heads out of you guys.
I was like nodding along with it.
God.
I was nodding as in, please don't say the name, because that's my Offensive Player of the Year, Jordan Tyson on the outside. I think he's going to have a big season. Obviously, he missed some big games last year for this group on national television. That really gave him an exposure chance. But I think he stays healthy through a full season. Levitt takes a step forward, more consistency, and he's going to put up another year of huge numbers. So Jordan Tyson, Offensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, in my opinion. JP.
Yep, I had Josh Hoover. I just think the numbers are going to be too big to ignore, whether they're 8-4, 10-2, or 6-6. Like, I think that the numbers are just going to be so gaudy that there's a chance that, he'll be in that conversation.
Nobody said Avery Johnson, JT. A little sweat. I know you've had him in your B list.
Nobody belongs to the
Avery Johnson hate club.
Yeah, like Justin.
That's JT's club.
He's
Absolutely.
the number one.
That is our co-host on our Iowa State show, if you don't know who that is. But JT, not a fan of Avery Johnson nor the hair. So nobody had him on the list, JT. You can sleep easier tonight. Jake, let's go to you for Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12.
We didn't really touch on a lot of K-State tonight. Not that I'm upset about it, but
I gave 2 players to watch.
Yeah, you did. I guess. Yeah, you went there. Defensive Player of the Year. I just said any defensive lineman on Texas Tech. It could be Height, could be Lee Hunter, could be David Bailey. give me any of those three. I really do think that this defense is going to wreak havoc, and I think that the two deep is even better. So did I steal an answer there from you, Parks?
No, you didn't steal an answer, but I just didn't know if we made these lists together. I got Jacob Rodriguez, a linebacker for Texas Tech, as the defensive player of the year. I mean, hell of a player, obviously massively productive on this defensive unit. I think he's going to be in line for another big season. If things go well, usually teams that are good win these awards, and I think he'll align at that spot with all of his experience. And Jacob Rodriguez, player of the year in the Big 12 2025. JP, you got a Texas Tech guy, or are you splitting it out?
No, I'm going Baylor here. Keaton Thomas. I think for me, a lot of these positions are just tackling machines and guys that run the defense. This is one that's going to run the Baylor defense. Had 114 tackles a season ago. Disruptive. He'll have to really rein in the guys on the outside of him. But I think that's a name that is just, it's going to be first team all conference with a chance to be Big 12 defense.
That was my pick until I erased it. That was like 5 minutes before the show. I changed it up.
Yeah, I almost had to change a couple of answers after listening to this. If not, Jake would have given it away. So I'm glad I did.
True.
Crazy.
Let's go to the conference. Let's
Crazy.
go to the conference title game pick and prediction. Gentlemen, who's going to be playing in the conference title? Everybody's asking the same question for this conference. Who gives you your best feeling to be playing in this game in Jerry's World to end the season? Jake, I'm making you go first.
Yeah, we said we'd talk about this team later, I think earlier in the show. I'm going Arizona State Baylor. That's my title pick. I love quarterbacks and coaches that come back. I know I'm wearing a hat for my own team that returns a head coach and a quarterback as well. And we'll do a whole, preview on Iowa State and all that good stuff. And I really am high on Iowa State. I know we haven't touched on them really a ton as a whole, but I think Arizona State, just look up and down. Like, we could preview this team for 30 minutes. Like, the talent that they bring back. I know Cam Scadaboo was Mr. Do-It-All last year, but I think
the only reason people are writing him off.
And he was special. Like, outside of Ashton Genty, like him to have those two in the same season was pretty incredible, honestly. But Kyson Brown
won the Heisman.
and Kanye Udo are going to be really good, and the defense is going to be really good again. So I love that, and I think Baylor offensively, they're loaded. You highlighted a couple of guys, Parks, that Sawyer's going to throw the ball to. Just a matter of, man, I guess I'm trusting Dave Aranda to turn around the defense just a smidge. We like your TCU comp, JP. I don't need like number 3. I just be like 8th. 8th would be good enough. All
right, JP, you got a conference title game?
I do, and I don't love it. I went through and picked every single game within the Big 12 schedule this year. These are the numbers that split out to me here. Utah, Kansas State. For me, Utah gets a lot of their big ones at home, and I kind of do just believe in the run game will be good enough. The defense will be really stout, and they just won't beat themselves. And that goes a long way within this conference. Then Kansas State, I'm taking a little bit of a leap of faith here. I think that there is a chance that this is just good enough and they find a way to really work through that schedule and make things happen for them. So I have Kansas State in this spot. I went back to the Cocaine Willie podcast that Jake did with the Iowa State fan perspective. Not that they super convinced me, but just getting an insider perspective on what these pieces are that maybe don't have necessarily the name or the production from years past. I still think there's pieces there, and a climbing team is usually a team that I'd like to back.
I like that. Don't do cocaine.
I'll say JP's pick is good. Mine was bad, and I'll tell you this why. When you're picking a Big 12 title prediction, don't pick a team or don't pick a pair of two teams that play each other during the year, because the Big 12 title tiebreakers are just so wonky. Like, Arizona State and Baylor play each other, so probably not a great pairing, because those two teams could be really good at the end of the year, both like 10-2, and then just like last year, it'll be a four-way
Utah,
tie.
Kansas State play each other too. So
do they?
Yeah,
I thought they did.
Oh, they did. Don't worry about tiebreakers. Just give us the pick. I literally, when I was looking at this conference, it's the only conference I think we've ever done a preview for where at the end of the conference title game, I put maybe. I wrote so somebody versus somebody, maybe. Like, I really don't know. So I have Texas Tech versus Baylor down. Battle of Texas. I left Arizona State out. I think I'm higher on Baylor just after looking into them further. And then Texas Tech, it just seems like money always talks. We just watched it happen with Ohio State's roster, so it doesn't feel crazy to me. And if things work out, I think we can have an all-Texas Big 12 title in Texas.
I just find it hard for a team to get there twice in 2 years in this conference. That's why I didn't go Arizona State. I think they're going to be really good, but
yeah.
They used to play that game in Jerry's World. You remember that? Tech and Baylor? They did that for a couple of years.
Let us know in the comments who you have in your Big 12 title game. If you have it picked, it's a tough one, but let us know in the comments who you got. Let's go down to who won it. If you have a conference title game, who's going to win that game that you just gave, Jake?
Man, I don't. How can I be the quote unquote Big 12 expert for this podcast and say we're going to have a back-to-back champion? But I'm going to do it anyways because I really think
this is a funny comment.
Yeah, I saw that one.
This is a good comment. The butt bowl. That's exactly what it is. BUTT. I like that.
Tempe, give me Sparky. I think they're going back to back. I really do.
Wow, stunning. Jordan Tyson won Offensive Player of the Year, but yeah, that would be stunning. JP,
we're a year early. Had them last year.
Wow.
Utah wins this year.
Is JP picking Kansas State and Utah in the Big 12 title game the most JP Iowa fan answer ever?
How though? But how? How?
Well, we already know that K-State.
Oh man,
I got a hot take here, and it could be wrong just based. I didn't run through all the tiebreakers here, but these are the two teams I had a gut feeling on. I'll get to my house.
I have Texas State winning the conference title. I think money talks. I already talked about it. Gus, I almost crossed out my answer and said somebody different just to grind your gears because you pissed me off. But I got Texas Tech winning the Big 12 this year. Let's go to it. Let's go to hot takes. JP, I want to hear your take and stay on that topic. You first.
4-way tie for second place decided by tiebreakers. Disgusting. Would suck. Don't understand all the tiebreakers. Didn't run through all of them. But I can tell you that when I ran through that this morning, it was like 3 or 4 teams tied for that second place slot. So it's going to happen. That's where I'm at. They're just going to eat themselves alive in some spots.
Yeah, that would be the old Sun Belt, shoot each other in the foot. Somebody doesn't get in that deserves to get in. That would be the way. Jake, any hot takes? You got to have a hot take.
Yeah, I do. I just had to shout out Jaybird. I'm glad somebody came on the show and put Iowa State in their title game. But
what do you mean somebody? It should have been you.
It could have been. I just couldn't do it. I don't know if this is hot take. This is a hot take relative to the conference. I think the top 5 in this league are going to be. It's going to be super top heavy this year. I don't see a ton of carnage. I think your Kansas State, Arizona State, Tech. I'll throw Iowa State in there, and Baylor, maybe even Utah. Maybe there's 6. I think those 6 teams are going to be really good within the conference. And like I said, I think if there's going to be a top heavy group of teams, there's going to have to be some really bad teams that just get beat on. And I'm sorry, UCF, Arizona, Okie State. Like, I think you are like those 3 teams are going to be like really, really poor.
I guess my hot take would be, I think Oklahoma State is going to compete on the road at Oregon. I don't think that I guess that's going to be a hot take.
Put a number to it. Put a number to
Within the number.
What would the line be? You got to set a line.
20 something.
You think it's going to be 20 or something?
Yeah.
It might be out already. They got week 1 games.
Week
that
2.
might be.
Anybody in the comments on one of your sports books, see if that's that line.
No, here you go, Parks. Here you go. Competitive is under 10, under double digits.
Yeah, I was thinking 7. I was thinking within a touchdown, like Idaho style game.
Color me shocked if that happens.
Yeah, that would be my absolutely raging hot take, but I kind of felt forced to have one because of how much I talked about the Pokes being damn near picked dead last in this conference, so I had to involve them.
Do you have a number, JP?
No, I was looking at the Boise State South Florida spread. It was a little egregious.
I can absolutely find some juice around.
Can I give you a number for that, JP? What
do you have it?
Let me get. No, can I guess it?
Yeah, this is bad podcasting. Let's go. Hurry up.
Boise State -8.5 on the road.
Yeah, you already looked at it.
No shot. I swear.
It's 8.5 on the nose. Yeah,
he's such a lion.
Sign me up, Vegas. Let's go.
8.5 is an asinine guess to give. That is, you are a lion sack, Jake. There's no way. He looked. All right. Let's go to the last part. We'll stick on gambling, parts of gambling. Over, under. Who's your favorite? Win total. It could be an over, could be an under. You could have one for each. Jake, give us your over first.
Or give them both, just for time's sake.
Oh, give them both first. Yeah, sorry, give them both at one time.
Yeah,
I only have one,
all right,
so
all
I'm giving them.
Here you go. Here you go, Jaybird. I'm going to go Iowa State over 7.5. I really think that's very attainable for this group. it might even be. It was 6.5 in January.
I saw
but think
7.5.
Yeah, it's probably 7.5 now. I'll still take it. And then Justin, if you're still listening, he knows where I'm going with this. Under 5.5 plus 100 for UCF. Like that's a real total I'm putting money on here. Like I think that team is going to be. They got an easy schedule, but it's they're I guess just easy.
What's easy when you're not good?
We'll just see if that's the right job for him down there. Did you guys hear the quote
Still
where he's
not
talking
over it.
about Scott Frost at UCF? And it said it's a perfect place for Scott Frost because he'll be playing second fiddle to Mickey Mouse down there. He's not going to be the biggest storyline. It's good. It came from Matt Scheck, ESPN. All right, JP, give us your over and under.
Give me Baylor over 7.5 at -105. I think that team's 8 or 9 wins good. I think 8 at a minimum in some ways. Arizona under 4.5 plus 145.
4.5 now, is it?
I saw 4.5. Yeah, I saw 4.5.
You might be
that's
right.
Why that number's plus money.
I didn't know anybody was under 4.5.
I struggle with this team in some spots. I don't think they're good in either of the trenches. I don't think the defense is going to be very talented. I think there's pieces offensively to make things like some form of better and like scary in some spots. But I hate the schedule, and I just think that it's too much of a turn to jump into this conference. Like they might lose to Hawaii.
They can I get I don't know if I actually know the number for that one on the top of my head. I'm thinking of the Stanford.
Hawaii's a favorite against Stanford. They're probably 4.5.
I've seen that
favorites.
one. That was the one I was thinking.
The college football world's buying into Hawaii hype, and that is good for the sport. I'll say that too. But my favorite, and I only have the one. I don't have an under. Over 7.5. Baylor. I have them in the conference title game. They could damn near win the thing. We've talked about Sawyer Robinson how much tonight. I gave you both of their weapons. I think the defense takes enough of a step forward. Full year under Aranda's play calling sheet. The year 2 jump going to be enough for Baylor to a minimum get to 8. I'm thinking more close to 10. On Baylor's schedule. That Auburn game, big turning point though. You gotta compete well in that one. So Baylor over 7.5 is my pick. Any other things left out there that we didn't talk Big 12? This was the Big 12 preview.
I would just say sub to our YouTube. We got more people on YouTube tonight than we have in the past. A lot of interaction after. We do appreciate it. Sub if you're over there. We've been growing. We're putting out content regularly at this point. And it's been a ton of fun. And I'm telling you right now that this is going to be one of the most fun seasons yet. I think we've got a lot of things lined up and ready to go. And, there's a rumor out there might be a 4th on this show here soon. So,
yep, we will have the return. Yeah, we used to have that. But no, let's
4 horsemen
there. Hit the subscribe button. If you didn't get the more in-depth feeling of the team you liked tonight out of the Big 12, there's a good possibility they're out there. Jake's done a lot of full previews with the Iowa State fan perspective of Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State, Colorado. Go on our YouTube, check it out. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Shop No Rivals. Great hats. Code PTFS gets you free shipping on any of their hats on shopnorivals.com. We love them. We love you. We'll see you next week for the Big 10. Jake, take us away.
Go Clones.
Oh, go Clones.